Welcome back to another Frugal Friday, where we're reading the book The Art of Frugal Hedonism. And we are on chapter 21 this week, which is what, Kim?
Don't be a selfish jerk.
It just has weird characters. How do you know that says jerk?
Well, it's 4 letters, and they're all symbols, so I'm just assuming it's jerk.
Okay.
Yeah.
Sounds good.
Not over-consuming is simply the polite thing to do on a planet of finite resources. We will assume that you, dear reader, know a fair amount about this situation already and have possibly even felt waves of paralyzing doom crashing about you when contemplating the huge cogs of industry and economy that seem to churn relentlessly forward, chomping up all that was sparkling and rich with energy and fertility stores laid down over millions and zillions of years. Despite this awareness, most of us struggle to make the connection between our personal habits and this dismal situation in any visceral fashion. That's not surprising given that the chains of supply and disposal enabling our consumption are now largely distant or hidden. For most of human history, we've been used to social and environmental setups where, if we behave irresponsibly or greedily or lazily, life begins to suck. Our neighbors shun us, our crops fail, all our assets go to pot, our animals die, our drinking water gets foul. Over time, we have come to trust this mechanism that tells us that if life is really pleasant, then we can't be doing anything too bad. So now in this warped new setup, which enables us to comfortably and repeatedly do lazy, greedy things, causing really unimaginable harm, we just can't quite believe that our behavior could be deeply problematic, because our living conditions are so freaking pleasant. Don't be fooled though, dear reader. Cause and effect are as real when it comes to personal consumption as they were that time your poor high school chemistry teacher made an inspired bid for your hormonally distracted attention by dripping water onto powdered iodine and zinc, causing purple smoke to spew forth in a bat-out-of-hell way quite appealing to your melodramatic teenage aesthetics. Here are 3 examples of small personal behaviors that are cumulatively wreaking death and destruction. Yet they could all be changed without even making a dent in our incredibly high standards of living. The figures are from your author's native Australia, but US and UK stats are not so different. More than a third of all car trips in Australian cities are under 3 kilometers. Many of these are to supermarkets. Every time we permit ourselves this kind of driving, instead of walking, riding, or planning shopping around 1 trip a week instead of 4, we produce unnecessary CO2 and pollutants. You know, that stuff which is causing unseasonable droughts, floods, fires, and hurricanes and giving everyone respiratory disorders. Many of us habitually set household thermostats a couple of degrees unnecessarily high in winter and low in summer, dumping even more CO2 and pollutants into the atmosphere. Wearing woolly scarves and jumpers all winter may be a tad annoying, but then so is losing all your crops if you're a farmer and also having no ice to stand on anymore if you're a polar bear. As a nation, we not only overeat, but we each throw away an average of about 135 kilograms of food per year. This occurs via habits like not using leftovers, buying one-off ingredients for recipes, and eating out at restaurants where the exaggerated servings force the poor distended diner to leave half the food on their plate. This food equates to millions of tons of fertilizers mined and synthesized, not to mention all the water inputs and the oil and other resources used for processing, packaging, and transport. It's not as though any of us chose to be born into this distorted situation where everything is arranged to encourage us to constantly consume beyond the planet's means. But that doesn't mean we can't do something about it, like adopting the more streamlined consumption habits of a frugal hedonist. The sooner we do so, the less damage will be left behind, and the more eons-long pleasure on a whole planet with all its monkeys and trees and small albino whales level there will be left to share. There were a few little story things. So this one says energy slaves. If you're an average English-speaking Westerner and you were to power your current lifestyle with human muscle power, i.e. with slaves, how many people would you need? Answer, around 114 healthy slaves would have to work around the clock to move your car, heat your house, and power your appliances. Thankfully, those lovely coal mines and oil wells mean we don't need to worry about pesky things like the welfare and uprisings of these energy slaves. On the other hand, fossil fuels aren't turning out to be so trouble-free either. And then this one says, it may seem like there's a lot of ranting in this book about the careless use of food. Here's why. For Australians, around 28% of our personal greenhouse gas emissions are created by the production and distribution of the food we buy. By comparison, electricity, gas heating, and other energy use directly in the home only account for 16%. Over half of our personal water use also comes courtesy of the food system. In fact, these figures are underestimates, as they don't include driving to the shops or home refrigeration and cooking when assessing food's resource toll.
Interesting.
Don't be a selfish jerk.
Yeah. So, I think based on this being a frugality channel and or a
Segment.
fire channel and a frugality segment, I think that a lot of people watching this are probably on board with saving, reducing, and whether or not you're on board with whether or not climate change is real and you should be helping save the planet. I think you're interested in frugality and saving money. So I think no matter which way you're looking at this, it can benefit both sides of it. If we can reduce our food waste and eat more leftovers, we're going to reduce our grocery bill and also reduce the amount of food that needs to be grown and thus helping the planet. We can also reduce our trips to the grocery store, which reduces the amount of gas we're spending in our cars. And then we're going to reduce our grocery bill, ideally, unless we're just spending more at the store. But reduce our grocery bill and save on the budget there too. So I think both these things can definitely benefit each other, and I think that's going to be helpful. I'm sorry if you hear other people in the background. Our downstairs tenants have just gotten home, and there's no door between the two levels, so you might hear them here or there, but that's okay. So Kim, what do you think about this segment? And I know that the planet is very important to you as you love nature and you're all about working on doing things to save the planet. So what do you get out of this?
I think that this is a really motivational segment, especially since they broke down kind of these 3 very specific things that we can all kind of work on. Last fall, when I was taking a little bit of a break from working, I had a few months off and I committed to not driving the car unless I was lumping a bunch of errands or I was going someplace that was farther than 2 miles away from home. And I really liked that. I liked the experience of putting on rain gear if it was raining and making sure that I had waterproof bags so that I could go up and get groceries at the store, one of the 3 stores that we have here that are within 2 miles. And I just liked being a little bit more reliant on my feet and being more present in nature and not just thoughtlessly getting in the car. And I'd like to get back to doing that. I mean, there's certain days a week that I work and I work too far from home to be able to comfortably get myself there on foot or by bicycle. And so on those days, you know, I can do my errands that get me a little farther away from home, but I would love to stay a little bit closer to home on the other days to reduce some of the automotive trips.
Sure.
And then the second section was talking about household thermostats, and interestingly, I just turned our heat on today, so that makes me think maybe we could put some more clothes on and deal with things being a little bit warmer. But there are 4 humans that live in this house, and so it's kind of a household decision as to what temperature we want it to be. So
Sure,
we might have to have that conversation with everyone.
I do think we spent some time this morning out on our porch, which is very pleasant out there, but it was a bit chilly. And we maybe got our body temperatures a little lower. Maybe we should have bundled up a little more before going out there, which also in turn felt the need to turn the heat on because our core temperatures had lowered and we felt chilly. So I do think it's important to be able to enjoy the things that you have, but maybe we could have just done some things to not let our body get so cooled off. So, and then the car thing I think is important. I've actually recently, we're looking into needing to either replace a car or get a different car, and so we're trying to decide what is going to be best for us. most likely it's going to be a used car. And a coworker of mine recently got an all-electric Fiat 500e that was surprising to me how inexpensive it was. Now it's not a very large car, which is good and bad, I guess, depending on how you look at it. But it's kind of equivalent miles per gallon is considerably much higher than using um, gas to power it. So that's kind of the direction that I'm kind of thinking. But again, this is going to be a car for both of us, so I think we're going to have to kind of look. It also has a downside of your electric, and you can't run by the gas station and spend 5 minutes to put more gas in it. And so you need to plug it in more often than you would get gas. So that means you can't go as far, and it's going to limit some things in that side. So there's some things to think about. But if you have an electric vehicle, or you've done some research on electric vehicles and kind of what kind of benefits they can bring or not bring, we'd love to hear those down in the comments. And as that's something we're kind of looking into right now, and we'd love to hear more about it. I'm trying to figure out, is the process of creating the batteries for those, is that process and waste that comes from that kind of nullifying the amount of fossil fuels you're using, or is it this similar to what it takes to create, a gas-powered vehicle? I'm not really sure where exactly to find that information, but that's something I'm curious about myself. So
Yeah, it would be nice to know the environmental trade-offs and swaps, and then how much are you offsetting your carbon footprint by choosing electric, which is going to be a little bit more of a hassle, like you said, or at least require a little bit more planning if you're going to be doing a road trip or something where you'll need to map out where you can recharge and where you have to take breaks, etc. So it would be nice to know, like, okay, for that extra thought and effort, what are we able to kind of give back to the environment and our pocketbooks at the same time? So
yeah. So, all right. Well, you guys have a good weekend, and we will see you back for next Friday's Frugal Friday, and check out the rest of our videos throughout the week. Thanks for tuning in.
bye.